Right on. Well, thank you guys so much for doing this. This podcast is about you guys and your journey in music, forming the Vaughns, and we'll talk about your new record or your new EP as well.
Awesome.
Cool, cool. So you're both, I did read you went to high school together. Were you both born and raised in Jersey?
Yeah, we were born and raised in Jersey, same town. We went to high school together, but we didn't officially meet up till like college, like early freshman, sophomore year of college.
Oh, okay. So did you know each other in high school at all?
Kind of.
Yeah, it was like small enough town where you like knew of everyone. So like, but we had never like hung out or crossed paths or anything like that. But we had like weirdly a few like mutual friends. Like one of my like lifelong best friends was a friend of his, and that was how we linked up eventually.
Oh, right on. Cool, cool. So,
Yeah.
well, Ryan, how about you? How'd you get into music?
Um, my parents were always big music fans growing up. There was always music playing in the house. Um, I don't remember exactly when I decided that I wanted to play music. I think at some point when I was a kid, my dad bought himself a drum set. And as a kid,
Awesome.
I'm like, "Ooh, I'm gonna hit this thing. This is super fun." And I think at some point, my dad was like, "Hey, man, you're already better than me. Why don't you just keep playing drums?" I'm like, "Okay, cool."
Oh, that's awesome. Did he ever continue, or just after that point was like, no?
No, my dad gets involved in a lot of projects and hobbies, and he gets like really. I do the same thing. I get like really excited about certain things, and
Uh-huh.
it might be like a couple days. I might go buy things and get super into it, and then all of a sudden I'm not into it anymore.
Sure.
Music's not one of those things, but it was one of those things for my dad.
Right on. What about you, Anna? How'd you get into music?
Similarly, my dad actually played a little guitar and wrote songs, and like when I was really young, one day I like came to him with a song I wrote. You know, like little kids will be like, "I made up this thing," like, and I like came
Sure.
to him like that. But he like went full force and like sat me down and taught me like about song structure and like taught me what like a chorus was, and like it blew my mind. And it was
Oh,
just like,
wow.
yeah, he was just really excited to like be able to share something that he loved with me. And then I didn't really play or anything till I was much older, but like I always did it, one of those like secret bedroom
Sure.
songwriter type things. And then um ended up doing a talent show like my senior year of high school, and then it was game over.
Okay. Okay. Your
Yeah.
dad taught you about song structure and everything. Did he write songs at all, or just kind of noodled around on guitar?
Yeah, like he didn't really perform or like try to do anything with them, but he's like always written songs, and like it was cute. Like when my mom went away to college, he like made her this mixtape of like songs he wrote. So like songwriting was just something that like it was like talked about in my family, but it wasn't like no one had tried to pursue it or anything like that.
Sure. Sure. How old were you when you picked up the guitar?
Probably like I think that was like around second grade or so, which is pretty
Wow.
crazy. But that was like the first time. But I mean, it wasn't like I like got good or anything then. It was just something that was always there, I guess.
When did you start like playing it more regularly?
Um, I, I dabbled. I think like the first time I started a little band was actually in like middle school, but I didn't get like serious about it until like late high school. Then it was like I was picking it up every day.
Okay. Right on.
Yeah.
Right on. What about you, Ryan? So once you started playing drums, like, did you form a band at all? Like, when did you start playing with other people?
Yeah, I mean, the funny part is, so when I started playing my dad's drum set, it really wasn't. I kind of wanted to play guitar. So I got an acoustic guitar. My dad's best friend's a guitar player. I took lessons for a little while, got frustrated with it, stopped playing guitar completely after like 3 weeks or something. And then I went back to the drums. I was like, this is way more fun.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. I think I was playing around 10 or 11. And I like had my first like little like after school band thing when I was like a freshman in high school.
Oh, cool.
Um, yeah, I was playing with this one kid in town, and we were just like doing like whatever covers. We did like a Rise Against cover and like Creep by Radiohead, and um, just like a bunch of all over the place songs. But then I joined like my first like real band when I was like 16, and we were like playing all around New Jersey and doing like battle of the bands and stuff like that.
Oh, cool. How long did that last? Did you like with the battle of bands and stuff? Were you guys kind of pursuing it as this could possibly be, something other than a local band?
I don't know. I think every band, maybe it's just like being in a band ego, but I think everybody in a band always thinks that they're the best. And
Sure.
especially when you're 16, you think, wow, we're so good, we're totally going to make it. So I think we had these, these dreams that we're going to make it, but I don't I don't know. I mean, it wasn't like that was like my future plan. It was always like, I got to go to college close to here so I can
Hmm.
keep playing music and to pursue the band. So I was always making decisions with that dream in mind.
Hmm.
But I don't know if I ever thought it was like definitely going to happen or like that I was like really pursuing it until
Okay.
now, I
Now. Sure, sure.
guess.
And you said you played a talent show in
Yeah.
your senior year. Was that you just went up there by yourself and played what, acoustic guitar, or how did that work?
Yeah, pretty much. Just like it's like so ballsy when I think of it now, but like I literally just like out of nowhere, like none of my friends knew that I did this, and I just like played songs that I wrote, like not even covers.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. I don't know. I think I just like it was one of those things, senior year, it's like I don't know, it's like you feel like it's your last shot. Like, and I
Right,
think I
right.
just wanted to like challenge myself to do something that was like out of my comfort zone. And I did it, and then I ended up just like, I got all the adrenaline rush from it and was just like, wow, I think I want to do that again. And then I just started doing a lot of like open mics and just meeting people who were also into writing songs and just um yeah, and I just wanted to be around like something creative like that, and it just grew from there.
Wow. And then you guys both went to the same college. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Eventually.
Yeah, but not at first, but I ended up transferring like when the band started. Like I was kind of going to transfer anyway, and I ended up coming back home to like be able to play in the band all the time. But we met like during like winter break of college. I was hanging out with a friend, and this kid Chris, who was like playing guitar with us at like the first year or so,
Hmm.
I met him, and he was just like, I was thinking about this the other day because he was just such like it was so cliche. Like he was just like, yeah, like we were like at a friend's house and passing guitars around, and he was like, I guess, I don't know, I got the respect. So then he's like, hey, like, my band's having a practice tomorrow. You should come by the jam spot. And like such like a dude about it. And I was just like, okay, like cool, like, what's the address? And then little did I know that I was driving up to Ryan's house and walk in this like literally garage door, and it's just like all these guys from my hometown that I like sort of knew but didn't really know, and they're just like shredding. Like it's just so rock. It's like classic rock guitar solos, and everyone just like, I don't even think they stopped playing when I walked in. I just like walked in and they were like just shredding in my face, and I was like, holy crap, like this is happening in my hometown. And like I was just at the time trying to meet as many musicians as possible, but was pretty impressed by all of them. I was coming from like songwriter circles and
Hmm.
like
Yeah.
open mics. So to see that, I was like, holy crap, this is a whole other thing.
Sure, sure. Wow. Ryan, was that the band that you had in high school, or is it a different band?
No, no. Before I had this like rock and roll shed project. I was in a band that was playing like post-hardcore music with like synthesizers, like early 2000s kind of stuff, and
Okay.
a completely different sound. But it's definitely where I got my bearings as like being a drummer. Like I remember I learned how to hit a cymbal in that band. They're like, you're hitting it too soft. I was like, okay. And they're like, this is how you play a punk beat. And so it was definitely like a really great learning experience. I learned how to like work with other people and collaborate and improvise. And I think before that, I really didn't know how to do those things.
Hmm.
It was a completely different band. I think at this point when Anna saw us, this was like my third or fourth kind of project. And I think if Anna saw me in the first project, we probably wouldn't be having this interview now.
That's awesome. Well, so
Oh,
Anna, you go
yeah.
into this like,
Ooh, shit. Sorry,
whoa.
the phone fell.
She's like, I'm done with this interview.
Yeah, screw you guys. Yeah,
Okay, so you go into this, jam session. These guys are shredding. Were
yeah.
you kind of intimidated? Like, how then do you work your way into the band, and then eventually being, the front person?
um I don't know. I think I was just coming from a different musical thing, like where my love was always songwriting. So like I think I saw them and saw this like crazy shredding talent and was like, wow, I could really learn a lot from them. But they showed me songs they were writing, and I think I pretty quickly realized that like one, they could probably use a singer, and two, they could probably use help with songwriting. And like those might be the skills, not in like a bad way, but like I just like felt like if anything, that was
Right,
what
in a
I
bad
could
way.
offer. Like I just felt like we had a trade-off. Like I was coming from the songwriting world and like
Mhm.
vocal world and like singing world, and they had this like strong musical foundation. And I was like, wow, like I really feel like if I jumped in here, we would have all the pieces, I guess,
Mhm.
if that makes sense. So it was
Sure.
like, and I also was like, I mean, I was just impressed, and it wasn't like I was thinking that. I was more just thinking I wanted to be around it, and I felt
Uh-huh.
like that was what I could offer, if anything. So,
Sure. And they
but then
go ahead.
no, I was
No.
gonna say, then I think there was some convincing. I actually think Ryan, so I pretty much saw it and was like, oh, I want to start a band. Like, let's do this. I had been listening to like Alabama Shakes and was in this like I just wanted to start a band mode.
Sure.
And I basically looked at Ryan like one of the first times we hung out, like, let's do this, like let's start a band. And he was like, I'm game, but I think it took some convincing. From what I hear, he had to convince the other guys to
Oh,
let
to
me in.
let you in the
Yeah,
band.
yeah.
Okay. What was
Rumor
the
has it.
Do you know, Ryan? Like, did they not like, did you guys have a singer at that time, or were you just writing like instrumental, like
Uh,
hardcore?
I don't know. I think in that at that point in the project, we were just kind of just jamming and we were making songs, but the intention wasn't to make songs really. I mean, I don't know how to say it, like we were jamming and some of the jams became songs, but the intention wasn't to like make a final product. And it wasn't like we need to like designate a singer here. It was kind of like whoever came up with like the chords or whoever wanted to sing basically was
Would
singing.
sing.
I think when Anna came and was just improvising melodies on top of some of these jam parts that we had, I just knew there was something special. Being in like, at that point, my third or fourth project, I just know how hard it is to find a decent singer.
Mm-hmm.
And when you find one, you gotta, you gotta grab them.
Sure.
So I think in that moment for like my, not even rock and roll dreams, but like hopefully this can be a career thing. When I saw Anna, I thought this was the best singing opportunity or person that I've ever had in any project that I've ever been in. And just,
Mm-hmm.
it didn't feel, I felt like I had to convince everybody else because they didn't see what I was seeing.
Got
Aw,
it.
that's sweet, right?
Write that one on your wall, Anna. I'll never say
Yeah, that's sweet.
Well, obviously they let you in the band, and was this the first like version or variation of the Vaughns, or like?
Yeah.
Okay. And so when you joined, you said you were back home for winter break. Were you going to college not very close to town? Like
Yeah.
what?
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just
Finish.
gonna say, like the band must have been pretty, convincing if you're like, you know what, I'm gonna transfer closer to home. You know what I mean? Like it seems like you kind
Yeah.
of jumped right in and gave up what you had going on.
Yeah, it was kind of one of those things where timing just worked out. I had weirdly enough I went to college in Virginia, and I picked my school. I was a jock in high school. I was like an athlete, and I
Okay.
actually ended up playing like college basketball.
Wow.
And I didn't really want to go to college because I just didn't know what I wanted to do yet. But I had like spent all these years playing basketball and like had these opportunities to like go and do that. So I just felt like I owed it to myself to
Mm-hmm.
see that through. and I ended up going to school in Virginia to play, and I did like a season of it, and it was great. But I was like, just after one season, I was like, I know this isn't like what I want to do with my life. I know like I've
Sure.
I've done all the things, and like this is cool, but like I just wasn't that. It was just, it was time for me to, I was getting more into music and curious about like, okay, what do I want to study in school, and just had all these other interests. And when you played college sports, like that's, you don't have a lot
That's
of
your
time
life,
for,
right?
yeah, for
Yeah.
other stuff. Um, so I had sort of like decided after that season that um, I quit the team, and then I didn't really want to stay at the school. If I wasn't going to play, because that was
Mhm.
just like a large reason of why I chose that school, was because of the basketball program. And so I was like kind of already thinking about transferring, and then winter break happens and I meet these goofy guys and we start a band. And then I think there was like this one semester where we started booking our first shows, and I started like coming home on the weekends to play shows, and like and and then it was just like, oh wow, like this is exactly what I want to do, where I want to be. And it wasn't like we were playing anything crazy, but at that time it was just, we were so young, and just to play any show was so exciting. It didn't
Mhm.
matter. um we weren't thinking like, I don't know, our goals were just to get booked at the local bar, and that felt huge anytime we did.
Sure.
So yeah, I just started loving that and realized that like, um there, I don't know, I was just happy there, and I like wasn't happy at school. So I knew I was going to transfer, and then Ryan had been going to school at Seton Hall, which happened to be like really close to our hometown, and I realized that I could do the band and be home for a little bit. And yeah, I just did that. So,
Very cool. Very cool. And then
yeah.
you guys, so you start playing out more. When do you put together that first self-titled EP?
That was in 2015, and I think you have a better memory of like timelines than
Oh
I do.
yeah.
I don't. If you want to speak to it, I don't remember how long we did that, but I don't imagine it was that long after we
Okay.
together.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that EP was really like, we just needed something to show bars. We had like no understanding of recording. We had no experience. We had no idea what we wanted to sound like. We just like had these weird little songs that we needed something to like show venues locally to be able to get shows. Or
Mhm.
like if there was other local bands we liked, we needed something to show them like, hey, we're a band, here's a CD of what we sound like. And so we did that pretty quickly, pretty unprepared, pretty just like, Ryan knew a guy and he was like a metal producer, and it like was a very weird fit, but it allowed us to get a lot of shows early on, which just allowed us to keep getting better.
Okay. And the next EP you guys released, that one kind of, that's when stuff started really happening, right?
Yeah,
Tell me about that.
Ryan.
Go ahead. Brain is
So,
doing a bunch
I
of
feel,
questions.
I feel like I'm talking a lot.
I'll cut you off when I have something.
Okay, cool. Yeah, the next one was tomfoolery. This was a really fun experience when I look back at it. We had like, it still probably wasn't the right fit yet, but we had like scouted out producers locally, and by now we had discovered Rutgers University has like a pretty cool like DIY basement venue world. I
Mhm.
don't know if you're familiar with like basement shows
Yeah,
or
a bit.
okay, cool. So like there's, in colleges a lot, there's these cultures of like kids just throwing shows out of their basements. It's usually
Mhm.
very punk, and Rutgers has a really deep history of it with like just like, bands like Screaming Females, I think the Bouncing Souls, Gaslight
Mhm.
Anthem, all these big
Anyway,
bands have
man,
like kind of,
Festo.
Yeah,
yeah,
there's a huge punk scene there that came out of.
Yeah.
I mean, even Jersey itself has
exactly.
a rad scene. I mean, you had Saves the Day and a lot of those other bands that came out of there.
Yeah.
Exactly. And like there's still, because of like what everyone's done before us, I think there's always going to be kids throwing shows in New Brunswick. And we had eventually kind of we discovered that, and we started going to those shows, and like started being able to play those shows. And it was just the coolest thing because it's like this community of kids who just want to play music, and everyone's so supportive. And it's, you know, where we've made a lot of our Jersey friends. And it was just this whole other scene. And it was like, we found the scene in New Jersey, I guess. And through that had like sought out different producers that we thought, who, you know, we had friends record with who we liked their records, and found like this Canon Studios in Jersey City. And it's like this guy, Jesse. What?
How did we find them?
Romp used him, and Have a Good Season. So there's like 2 bands that we looked up to had worked with him. So we saved up all our money and we like worked with them. But what was so cool is that, I know I'm rambling, I'm sorry, but he gave us like, one, you signed up to record at this studio, Jesse Cannon, who has literally written music textbooks, like he would give bands a packet like this big of all the things you had to do before he would even like let you come record in a studio.
Wow.
And it was like practice to a click track, practice for vocalist. It was like find your notes on an actual keyboard and like fucking have them down by the time you come in here, and like, you know, practice with just this, like, because I'm sure producers get, you know, a lot of times bands who, I don't want to say waste their time, but if you're not prepared, it could be a bit of a headache, like recording.
I'm sure.
So he like, but was like, I just like think back to that, and it was such a shifting moment in us because we took that packet and I don't know if any other band ever did that for them, but we went through every fucking bullet, and like we bought into it so hard. And like, I just remember practicing before we recorded that EP so intentionally and like so intensely. And you know, in the EP, like we were still finding our sound, and I don't know if it was, you know, exactly, it, you know, not right, wasn't, I don't think the exact right sound for us yet, but it taught us how to go into a studio and how to prepare for a studio, and how seriously we should be taking practice. And like, I think that was just a huge mentality shift for us. Like it just got serious after that.
Sure. I mean, that's a brilliant idea on the producer's, you know, side of things, where I'm sure he had numerous bands come in there that didn't have a clue what they were doing, especially playing to a click track. If you're not in time, you're not in time, and it's not going to sound good. So right away, if you're out, then what's the producer going to do? Sit there for hours trying to match, you know, your drum beats. And that's just got to be a nightmare, like you said, on the producer's side, because he's not going to want to put out something that sounds like awful.
Exactly.
And or vocalists going in there and being like, well, you could just like auto tune that, right? It's like, well, yeah, but it's not as easy as just like dropping a filter over the thing. It's like you really have to sit there and screw around with it.
Yeah.
I remember, Anna, like I totally forgot about that until you just said it, because I have no memory. But I remember one of the things in the packet that I thought was really weird is they asked me to buy all new drum heads for the studio.
I remember this, yeah.
And I remember they wanted me to massage the drum heads before I put them on the drum, to kind of stretch them out before I put them on in the studio. So I remember we were driving to the studio and I was sitting in the back of the van just like massaging the drum heads. I totally forgot about that.
It's probably like one of those things though with the guitar strings. Like they're like, put new strings on your guitar, and then you don't stretch them, so like 3 notes in is all out of tune already.
That's, believe it or not, they actually, Mike, who was like our engineer, actually was the person that taught me how to put on strings and stretch them like that. I remember him sitting down, me and Dave, the guitarist, and like all of our years playing guitar, we never learned how to stretch them. And like we were changing our strings in the studio, and he was like, no, you're doing it all wrong, and like sat us both down and is like teaching us how to string our guitar. Like there's just so much that we learned at that point. We were just learning so much from, it was our first real studio experience, and I think we were really lucky in having people who pushed us to do it right. And we were just really fortunate in that way.
That's amazing. And the EP did really well itself, right? I mean, weren't you up for like some awards, and it did it did some things.
It definitely made our first splash locally. Like in New Jersey, it was like all of a sudden after that, like we had the respect of the whole Jersey music scene, and we were playing like every venue in New Jersey at that point. We started playing in Asbury, and we got like Asbury Park Music Award nominations, and like it was just it wasn't like it made this huge life-changing thing, but it I
Took
think
you to the next level, obviously.
next level, yeah, next level. And as like after that, we were like New Jersey, we were in it.
Right. And from there, is that when you started branching out and doing like tours of the East Coast at all, or was that prior to that EP?
I don't know if I don't recall if, I think we were playing a couple shows in Philly at that point. So I know that we were branching out to New York City and Philadelphia. I don't think, and I jump in if I'm wrong here, I don't think we left the tri-state area until the next release.
Okay.
Am I
Yeah,
wrong?
maybe some small weird one-offs, weekenders, random colleges, like and stuff like that. But I think we were pretty content being like big shots in New Jersey for a while.
Okay.
And it wasn't until we got management for the first time where they like just started basically drilling us. They're like, they would make fun of us and call us like hometown heroes, and they're like, you guys got to get the hell out of New Jersey. And
Got
that was
it.
when we started like touring.
And was that with FOMO and with that record?
Yeah,
or like
right.
How did that happen?
So I think some point after Tomfoolery, we had been playing shows. Still, we were just playing like New Jersey shows like every week, every weekend. We were in New Brunswick or Asbury or somewhere. And eventually, we started getting press. Actually, it was like we landed. Oh my gosh, no, sorry, this timeline's crazy. We ended up going back in studio to test out different producers. After Tomfoolery and after that success, we like wanted to go back in the studio because we were like, whoa, this is so cool, this is so exciting. So we kept playing shows, but we started writing, and eventually we had a couple new songs, and we actually went back and recorded them at the same place we did Tomfoolery, and we just realized it wasn't the right vibe. And then we did a test run we actually re-recorded them with the guy who would end up producing FOMO, which was Eric Romero, who was just another friend of ours through the music scene. He had played in a band called Dollies we played a bunch of shows with, and he was definitely becoming a pretty established producer. And so we ended up recording a couple songs with him, and then we self-released those, and they're FOMO songs. So it was Santa Cruz. We actually put out in like 2017, self-released, and it was like our goal to get press outside of New Jersey, and we ended up landing Consequence of Sounds.
That's huge.
Yeah, was freaking huge, and I still don't know how that happened like back then. But it was like me and my this is another wild story, but it was actually me and my friend Kirsten, who worked in like beauty PR at the time, just sending a ton of emails and pitching this song, and we landed Consequence, and we were like, this is so past the expectations, like this is insane. And what's wild is that long story short, Kirsten now works in music PR, and not only does she work at music PR, but she works at the firm that Equal Vision uses for house PR. So my like good friend that was like helping me from day one is actually our publicist now, which is wild. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's we have a couple of things like that where it's like, I don't even know how this stuff happens, but anyway, we put out that song, and that's when our manager Eric had found us, and he was friends with was starting this management thing with a co-partner named Matt, who was like this old school Jersey punk guy who had like managed these Jersey punk bands that had been doing really good stuff that we looked up to. And we started working with them, and then went in to record the rest of FOMO at some point.
Okay. And with that was the first record that you toured on and played outside of Jersey?
Yeah, and
Is
they pushed us to start touring and all that.
Okay. And then, so where was it? So this is what, like 2017, 2018 at this point?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we did our first tour in like 2018. We'd met them in like 2017. We did. This feels like a quiz, but it's also really fun for me just to like think back to those years.
Yeah, I knew these things happen, but
Yeah, it's kind of like a challenge to remember exactly how they happened. But yeah, so I think we met them because Matt actually pointed out to me the other day that we met in 2017, and then 2018 we started touring, and then we actually ended up waiting to drop FOMO for a really long time. It was probably done in like 2018, but oh no, mixing took forever. We had like hangups with mixing, and it took like a year, so we actually didn't end up releasing it until 2019, and then that was, we had started building it. By 2018 we started touring. FOMO drops in 2019. We did more touring, and that was like with this whole other level of success, I guess, after that. But
sure. So with that record, is that what grabbed the attention of Equal Vision? So like, where were you guys at? I mean, if you're touring through 2019, obviously in 2020 everything shuts down. So
yeah,
what's the timeline there? Were you already approached by Equal Vision prior to the lockdown happening?
yeah, I mean, so Equal Vision actually, I don't remember when the first contact was, but they came to New York City because they're actually located up in Albany. And they came down to New York City to actually watch us perform. I don't remember exactly where.
Oh, that's cool. Did you know that they were going to be there, or was it kind of like now Equal Vision's here?
I think we actually had a couple situations where we were told that labels were going to come see us at a show, but it didn't always happen.
yeah,
Yeah, they'd be like, oh, this person from this label's coming, and then we'd all get like amped up and be like, oh my God, the label's coming to see us. We're gonna be rock stars tomorrow. And it's like, I think there were like a couple shows like this where we expected someone to come and they didn't come, or they did come to a show and we like thought it was going to be a different interaction, or we were hoping for something better. So I think when we heard that Equal Vision was coming to a show, I think all of us were already like, okay, we'll see it when it happens, kind of
Right,
thing.
right. Sure, they're coming.
yeah.
And I remember they did come to a show and we talked to them, and like every situation where you talk to the next, the gatekeepers, I guess you can say.
Sure.
You kind of second guess and question every single word in the interaction that you had. So I think afterwards we were all like, oh, that seemed good, but like, I don't know, man, like they said this one thing and maybe that meant something else. So yeah, I don't remember when it was, but it wasn't before lockdown. It was maybe half a year before that, if not a little bit more.
Oh, wow. Okay. And so you had signed with them prior to, was it like a pretty no-brainer decision to sign with Equal Vision? Like, I'm sure you were fans of the bands and the label.
I think the best way to answer that question is for us, yes.
Okay. That's awesome. So you signed this deal that must have been life-changing. Obviously, tell me about that. Was it like a big moment, like telling your parents and family, like, hey, we just signed a record deal?
I don't know. I like, I'm sure when you talk to other artists, they might have similar things to say, but when you're in a band and you understand the levels and how things work, you kind of have like a different, understanding than everybody else. So there's all these times where something little happens for us, and all our friends and family are like having a shit fit about it, like, oh my God, that's so amazing. And we're like, whatever. But I actually think this is one of those situations where we were really excited, and I don't recall if everybody thought it was as cool as we did. Maybe that was on my end.
Maybe on your end. I think most people in my life like thought it was cool. Like for me, I felt the opposite, where a lot of people thought it was super cool, and for me it was just like, yeah, this is the next step, and like it's gonna allow us to make more records, which is allowing us to get better, and like, it's just the next step. And like I feel like a lot of my friends and family were like, you say record deal and people are just like, you say
right,
we're signed now, and it's like people's jaws drop, and like all of a sudden my friends have a lot more respect for what we do. But it's like for me it was just like, yeah, this is like the next logical thing, and it felt like a big accomplishment. It did. Like that was, you know, something I had hoped to do one day, and we did it, so that was cool. But it's really just being able to keep making music.
Sure,
Cool.
sure. With signing to Equal Vision, what was the first thing they did for you? Did they want to put you on tour, or did they want you to go in the studio and record an EP or a record?
I mean, the first thing we did when, you know, we were about to sign this, we actually went up to Albany and saw the facility, and they showed us
Okay.
around. I remember just being in awe of like all of the, you know, the records with a million sales on the wall of like all these bands that I loved, Circus Survive and Coed and Cambria and
Sure.
August, like all these like really awesome bands. And I mean, I'm kind of answering a different question, but yeah, they wanted us to record some music, the EP. But before any of that, we went up there and, you know, met with everybody and just had like a really good taste in our mouth of how things were going to be moving forward.
That's awesome. And then did you tour, or did they when did rom-coms and takeout start?
No, it basically, like, by the time the deal became official, I think it was December of 2019 or like January of like 2020.
So right before everything shut down.
Yeah, there was like the deal kind of took a little kicking out. It was kind of all at the same time that we were like transitioning as a band, and our two other members left. So Ryan and I were kind of like not sure if we were still gonna do it or what was going on, and ended up
like right after you signed the deal, you lost two members?
No, right after we got the offer. Yeah.
Okay.
It was, you know, I think a crossroads for everyone, and like just it was doubling down. Like it's a commitment to do this, you know, as cool as it is, and it, for them it wasn't worth it anymore. So then it was like, okay, we got the deal, but like they're out. Like they don't want to do it.
What was Equal Vision like? At that point, had you signed the? Yeah, you said you hadn't signed it, or were you guys worried that you're gonna lose it?
We were.
The Equal Vision was actually like after we signed and we got to hang out with them and like talk to them, I found out that they were actually kind of like thrown, and I think a little like offended that we didn't, like, you know, I think it was a unique experience for them to not have a band just be like, hell yeah, let's do it, and like sign and ink it. And like we took definitely a while to sign it because of all that internal stuff that was going on, and we just wanted to make sure that we were like making the right choice. So we sat on it for like months as we were working through all that stuff, and then eventually we were just like, no, like we're still going to do this, and we both really want to do this, so let's do it. And I forget what was the first question off of this. It was
I was just wondering if they were like how Equal Vision felt, and if it was kind of like a thing where now you have to almost like convince them, like, no, it's the two of us, it's still gonna work out. Like, were they worried that you lost two people in the band? And at this point,
I'm sure they were. I think they were still happy that we were doing it, and they didn't let on to that. They were just, after everything worked out and we signed, they were just like I remember visiting and them just being like, okay, like you guys, you know, they wanted to make sure that we were set and that we were excited. And I think once we visited and they saw how excited the two of us were, and I think the, like, you know, the offensiveness of like us waiting 5 months to sign it, I think our faces running around their facilities, like geeking out at all the plaques, and like they let us like go in the warehouse and pick out like merch, and like how excited we were, like kids in a candy shop, because like we grew up listening to a lot of the bands that they work with, and like
of course
we're like, I'm like grabbing a Say Anything t-shirt, and Ryan's like diving through these vinyl piles and like finding like John record, like it was just all these things, and like we were total nerds, and it was totally embarrassing. Like, but I think that it was important that they saw us like that, because I think that just like squashed all the weirdness of the contract process. but yeah, so we like basically signed. I think everything was settled by like 2020 January. We went up to visit, and then the world shut down, and touring obviously wasn't an option. So we had been already writing the rom-coms EP through um, definitely that January and maybe like a little bit of the end of 2019. And so we just hunkered down and set a summer recording date. And I guess we somehow were able to pick a producer as early as like January 2020 because we like visited a bunch of people. So that must have happened in January. So we like set a date, which happened to be end of May, which ended up working, but we got really lucky there. And then the world shut down, so we would just hang out and just write like as much as we could in that downtime.
And then how was the recording process? Was that strange? Is it all virtual, or like how were you able to record the record?
Yeah, so the thing was we had this date book to go into the studio and work on this, and then the world shut down, and there was so much uncertainty from both us and the producer on like, can we do this? If we do this, how will we do it? And I think at that point we were in quarantine, but I don't know if you remember, but I feel like at the beginning of quarantine, it didn't feel as like we were definitely in quarantine. People were wearing masks, but it wasn't as serious as it probably got a couple months later. I think not everybody even had a mask yet. People were making them because you couldn't get them.
Oh, sure.
But there was just a lot of uncertainty. And I think we were getting closer and closer to the date when we were supposed to go into the studio. And we didn't even know if it was going to happen at that point. But when we did get to go in there, it was kind of an agreement. And I think both of us and the producer were kind of uncertain and unsure about if we should even be doing it in the first place. I don't know. There was just a ton of uncertainty. So we had to wear masks in the studio. Nobody else was allowed there when we were recording. It was definitely a really, really weird experience, but also kind of made it unique and special for us.
Was it like, do you feel like you were able to accomplish more or kind of focus more on it because of the kind of restrictions, or not as much?
Yeah, I mean, I think that so we went in at like the end of May too. So it was like summer was starting to happen, and it was like the rules were like lifted so you could gather with like 10 people or something. I don't know. It was like we like got just lucky enough where we could do it, but we did like wear masks as much as we could, and it was just the personnel in the studio was like limited to just me, Ryan, and our producer Joe, which was cool because it was like in the past we had not only two other bandmates, but there was always interns and random people coming in and who brought like their partner to just hang out that day, and it was like always like 10 to 15 people hopping around the studio. So there was like, I think this just like intimacy and like level of just focus because it was just the three of us, and we had like a bass player come one day, and then the rest of it was just, I think it was just hyper focused, and it was just in the zone, and it was no distractions, and it was very little breaks, and it was just like, we just have to get this done, and we have these couple of days, and let's just knock it out. So I kind of like that. I'm like,
we should keep it like that.
I know.
Tell them to screw off. Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard two different sides of it, like where people are like the kind of chaos of having a lot of people there, but then other people are like, I love the like Zoom writing sessions and like the fact that there's nobody around because it's just like business and no like BS type things. So yeah, that's interesting. Well, with you finished the EP and you released it later or early last month, and then you have this record, and what do you can't tour it. That must be pretty interesting. Tell me about that.
I mean, it's just weird in general because ever since we started, I think priority number one was let's play shows as much as possible. Priority number two is like, let's write music. And then not that like they couldn't happen at the same time, but we were just playing shows every single weekend. So, recording new music and not playing is weird, but not playing period was just really weird for us. So, I mean, we did like a virtual set like a month ago, you know, where we went into studio and performed, and that felt somewhat like a show, but you know, we still haven't been able to play these songs, and it's weird because there might be something else out at some point, even before we play this EP. I don't even know. It's craziness.
Right. Yeah. I was going to ask you about that. I've wondered if, because, you know, you have this EP, and then obviously you probably aren't going to be like, I'm not writing any music until I can tour this record.
No more music.
Yeah. I mean, sure, the show goes on, and then those songs, I mean, I guess they wouldn't probably feel old to you, but I don't know. Like, say you can't tour until next year.
I guess the good thing is that it's not like we're playing them, you know, like we did like one live show, like in studio thing that we released like for the EP, but yeah, like a live stream, but like there's no need for us to, unless we're just practicing, to really like play these songs. So I guess the good news is we won't be like sick of them by the time we do tour them. It's just going to be like touring them for the first time. But
Sure.
I feel like we probably will like tour them with, it'll be like a, I don't know, joint promotion of probably new music by that point and this EP, but I don't know.
It's also going to just be weird when we play these shows. Like, let's say we put out another EP, let's say it's like 4 or 5 songs or something. And now we have 8 new songs that we haven't played before. It's like when we play shows, is our set going to just be all new music?
Yeah. 8 new songs.
Like, that's so strange. I don't know how that's going to work.
True. That's a good point.
And have you guys played, you probably haven't played a show as the two of you either, right?
Not a real.
No,
well,
yeah.
We played some house show like before quarantine where it was just the two of us playing some old songs stripped down.
Okay.
In a different setting. But I don't really know if I mean, it's a show, but it's not really a show. I don't know what I would call it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, live we still play as like a full band. So we did have like shows since the lineup change.
Oh, okay.
Like at the end of 2019, we did play like we did like a handful of like Christmas shows. We had lucked into a guitar player by then, and got to play like we played like a union transfer show. That was like the last real show we played. So it's like pretty funny that's
go out on a bang.
Yeah, went out on a bang, and then it's like, I don't know.
Yeah. Now it's just lockdown.
Yeah.
Well, I love the new EP. Raina, that song is amazing. I've just listened to it a few times in a row. Like the riff, and just like, I just love everything about it. I think the other 2 songs are great too, but that one like really stuck out to me. I was like, damn, like this is a really, really good song.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I saw that it made like the Fresh Finds playlist on Spotify. I mean, that must have been a huge moment for you guys too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like it was pretty cool. We were definitely nervous about releasing something and not being able to tour it, but I do think like for what it was, a tiny little 3-song EP, like it did about, you know, as much as you could ask for, like without being able to tour it and do that stuff. Like we definitely landed things that were some dreams for us, like the Spotify Fresh Finds, and then we got like some NPR looks and stuff like that. So we're very grateful that it did as well as it did.
Yeah, amazing. Well, like I said, that song is so good. The other 2 songs are awesome as well. And I just want to let you guys know that I was like, wow, this is really good, really, really good. And thank you so much for doing this interview. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. I have one more question for you both before I let you go. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Oh,
I got one, unless you want to start.
You start.
I think for us, it's just everything's a step, and you know, everything takes work and practice and time. And, you know, every time an opportunity happens, you like to think that this is going to be the thing that makes it. But if it doesn't, you can't quit. You got to just keep pushing, because, again, everything's a process. But when you look back and like Anna remember things, which I don't, you'll be like, wow, we've come so far.
Yeah. Yeah, I would just say, like, you just got to find, like, I think what you want out of it, and also like what you have fun with. And music is so vast and there's so many worlds to exist in within this. So if you're having fun and you're just enjoying the process and the journey, it is a wild ride. And like Ryan said, if you don't quit, you'll be able to do things that you never, your song is, I don't know, you'll just be amazed at what you can accomplish. So just keep at it and be you and have fun.